Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be filming a little different kind of video. Today I'm going to be talking about why I think it's completely illogical to go to the US for undergraduate studies. So to help me in this topic, I'm going to be joined with my friend.
Hi guys, my name is Ram. Today I'm making a video with Anish on why it's illogical to go to the US for undergraduate, especially as an Indian in 2020.
So let me just tell you about myself and why should you even listen to me in the first place. So before I came to India, I lived in the US for around 5.5 to about 6 years. And well, when I was there, I just loved it there. It was some of the best time I've ever had. And in my 11th grade, in my junior year of high school, I found out that I had to come back and move to India, and this was because of visa issues. And I was truly really sad. And I kind of understood what was happening, but not really. So I was like, who cares? I'm gonna go to India. And my whole goal when I came back to India was I'm gonna study, get into a good university, and go back to the United States for undergraduate. And then I'll get a job and the whole process. And that was kind of naive of me. And so I was in this situation, which most of you are, assuming that that's why you're watching this video, to make a decision of should I go to the US or should I stay in India for undergraduate studies? And after a lot of thinking and kind of just looking at all the facts, I made a decision to stay in India for undergraduate. And during that time, I also came up with the conclusion that it is illogical for the most part for an Indian citizen to go to the United States. Now that comes with a few exceptions, and the main exception being, let's say you're an American citizen living in India, well that's completely different. I'm talking about Indian citizens here. And the other exception is, let's say you're someone who has a lot of money and where you don't really need to struggle to get this money. It just comes to you easily, no matter whether it be family or whatever it is. And in that case, this video is not necessarily for you. But this video is rather geared towards Indian citizens who might be in the lower upper class or the higher middle class or around that range or lower. And I just want to explain why I made the decision to stay in India and why that might be a good choice for you as well.
So why is the US so amazing exactly? Well, because of opportunities. Opportunities. The US is filled with opportunities. It has more opportunities for people than most countries around the world. That is why people flock to the US from every corner of the world. But that is no longer the case, as there are stricter regulations and rules and bureaucratic processes to get to the same place as you would have 15-20 years ago. So this video will be basically split apart into two main topics. So first is life during college and how most people can get there, and afterwards it'll be about life after college, so work and work visas, and probably further stay in the country as a green card holder and whatnot.
Now, the main factor which kind of pulls back people, one of the main factors to be precise, is the cost. And no matter how you put it, American universities are just way too expensive. I'm sure you've all heard the stories of Americans being drowned in debt, and student loans make up a huge part of it. Even for domestic American students, this is a really high price. But what you really need to understand is, if domestic students pay one price, you will be paying more than that more often than not. For most colleges in the US, an international student pays substantially more when compared to a domestic student. But you could argue that for that higher price, you are getting higher quality education. And well, that's completely true. You are getting one of the best education. And in fact, I think the top, out of the top colleges in the world, 50% of them are in the US. So without doubt, this education is high quality. But what we want to consider is this high price really worth it. And on top of that, many colleges don't even give out scholarships. My point here is, even though it might not be worth it for these 4 years, it is possibly worth it when you're applying for masters, because you're paying for only 2 years, and in those 2 years, you're getting deep specialized knowledge. Whereas in 4 years of college, the first year is usually just general stuff. You need to do your basics of English, math, all those basic stuff, and then you start getting into the topic more deeply. But until then, it's just basic stuff. But let's say you're going for graduate school, let that be master's or a PhD. You're directly going there and paying for more, more for stuff which is more in depth. And let's say you're going for master's, you directly dive into your topic. And this also comes with a lot more visa benefits, which we're going to talk about later.
So, as Anish was saying right there, the average cost of a private school in the United States is $36,880. This is the official number by College Board. The year-on-year increase over the past few years has been so tremendous that people in the United States can't afford the tuition by themselves. The greatest source of debt in America is from college tuition. And people in America are having a difficult time affording tuition. Now, imagine international students going over there, paying such high prices.
Ram, let me just add one thing, that those are the prices for domestic students. And international students are actually paying higher than that. So you still need to consider that you're paying more than what domestic students are paying.
Oh yeah. So that $36,880 only includes tuition. Mind I remind you. With accommodation, it is $49,870. This is only for domestic students, not even international.
And basically, getting a loan in India for education is not as easy as it seems. While in other countries, it's usually like, oh, you can easily get a student loan. But in India, that's not usually the case. It's not that easy to get a loan. And when you're not a citizen of the country, getting a loan in the US is far from possible. It's impossible.
Even if you get a 100K paying job, because they think, oh, 100K, that's a wonderful salary, they immediately convert it to Indian rupees, but they forget to account for the cost of living in the United States. And that is a big mistake that most people make.
Well, of course, like you said, people think like, oh yeah, 100K is a huge amount. And trust me, it really is a huge amount. And let's say you're getting 100K in Silicon Valley, that money just gets burnt away because rent is so high, travel is really high, and all those costs just add up from nowhere, and that 100K kind of loses its value.
And that goes to the topic of purchasing parity power, where it shows the true power of a dollar in a given state. For example, 150K in San Francisco might be a 50K or 60K job in Dallas or Texas. The power of a dollar really changes from state to state drastically, especially within the US.
Now, I think it's pretty well established that, well, high price is a huge deciding factor for whether or not you should do your undergraduate studies in the US. A student on the Indian student visa can only work for 20 hours a week, and those are on really strict guidelines.
To add on to what Anish was saying, those 20 hours, let me remind you, those 20 hours are only allowed on campus. So you are restricted to the domain of the jobs you can find within your campus. So if you cannot find a job, you are out of luck. You cannot find a job anywhere else. And this forces many Indians and many people in general to turn towards cash jobs. What is a cash job? A cash job is basically where you're paid under the table, so with no documentation. And if you are caught by any chance, that faces you getting deported. And now you have successfully graduated and you're applying for H-1B. So let me tell you how many applicants there are for the H-1B visa every year. 201 110 people applied for the H-1B this year. That means less than 1 in 2 people, that's not even a fair coin, get the H-1B visa.
May I add you, this 85,000 people we're talking about, and there is no set criteria of you getting this visa. There is a high chance that someone who barely passed versus someone who did the top in their class get the visa. Trust me, it's literally just a coin toss. There is no guarantee that you get this visa.
20,000 seats are reserved for master's students.
So basically how this works is master's students also have a chance of getting into a double lottery. So in other words is they just have a higher probability of getting that visa versus an undergraduate student. And over here, I really want to make it clear that our focus on this video is not to tell you that America is bad for education. No, that is not what we're trying to tell you. What we're trying to tell you is it may not be the smartest choice to go to America for undergraduate. But we do think that it is a good idea to go there for your master's or your graduate school.
So the H-1B is only valid for 3 can be extended up to 6 years. So after every 3 to 6 years, you're up for renewal. And the chances of you getting that get slimmer every time you apply because it's based on the lottery system. So you got your H-1B, now you want to stay in the country for longer. What do? Well, you can apply for a green card. Because on the H-1B, it's a dual intent visa, so you can apply for a green card. But it takes such a long time. There's so many forms to fill out, and these forms are more than 100 pages long, and they take at least 2-3 years just to be filed. And the backlog right now is a minimum of 2 years. A minimum of 2 years if you're someone of extreme importance. If you aren't, if you're just like a normal average person, it takes 8 years at the minimum. And the backlog is so big that the backlog is almost 97 years. So you're more likely to die before you get your green card. So it's not about where you go. It's about how willing you are to work hard to achieve something. You can be in America and not try at all and still fail. You can do the same thing in India, but it just depends on how much you're willing to work towards that goal. So this is something I've heard many times, especially in my school, when people used to say, oh, you're not going to America, you don't have a future. And this is something I'm tired of hearing, and it's a very toxic way to look at education, because your education is supposed to fulfill your needs, not satisfy those around you. So if you are considering going to the US, think about it twice. Is it really worth it for me, or are there better options that can suit me better? So please do think about that and do things that help you, but rather than making you look good. Thank you.